Hello and welcome to the SuperCoach Hub BBL Classic Podcast. I've got quite the lineup with me tonight. Let's get started. So today I've got an admin on the SuperCoach Hub, the organizer of NRL, BBL, AFL and NBL PodMasters, not to mention a pretty damn good SuperCoacher himself, Kane Anderson, aka Kando. How you going?
I'm good, mate. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad. I've also got with me
Yep.
a regular top 500 overall finisher in Big Bash and a regular in the Supercoach community. It's the Myth. How you going, mate?
Pretty good, mate. Just tinkering away as we lead up to the start on Thursday.
That's the spirit. That's the spirit. And finally, he's the founder of HoneyBall. He's been pumping out Big Bash content like there is no tomorrow. He's the go-to source for Big Bash news. It's Ben Somerford. Ben, how are you?
Good, mate. Going well. It's been a frantic couple of days, and it's always pretty frantic up until the first game. But piecing together all the latest news, trying to figure out who's available round one and all that jazz. So hanging in there, going well.
Yeah, that's the spirit. I'm going to go straight into it with the news. So I have here that Harris Ralph, well, initially a few days ago, it looked like he was out of round one, but I believe there's been an update. Ben, can you fill us in on what's going on with Harris Ralph?
Yeah, it's a very confusing situation. My latest intel is he's due to catch a plane out to Australia and arrive tomorrow. Obviously, the Stars' first game is Thursday, so that gives him time to settle in and play the game. That is this info is came to me. There was a level of caginess about it, I reckon. So you might have heard the PCB had a bit of an issue with Harris because he didn't. He was selected for a test series and opted out of it, which is a pretty unusual thing to do. I think he cited his body's not really up for the rigors of test cricket. And then the story came out through ESPN Cricinfo that they would give him, a no objection clearance. They wouldn't allow him to have that. So that's kind of created the situation where he might miss the Stars' first game. Sounds like he's going to catch a plane tomorrow and turn up. Whether he plays, I'm still not 100% sure. Still not sold on it, but that's the latest info I've got.
Yeah, right.
The good thing with that one, though, is that they play first game. So we'll actually get to know half an hour before the first game whether he's lining up or not. So we'll have the chance to be able to adapt if we need to.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Took the words right out of my mouth. I was going to say.
Gotcha.
We'll know pretty quickly. And the next one I've got here is Quinton de Kock. Obviously, we've heard that he's out of round one. But who do we think that mainly benefits in this Renegades lineup that's pretty relevant for the early rounds?
Oh, it's a tricky one, actually. Well, Ben, who do you have as the top order for them now with de Kock out of the way?
With de Kock out, I'd still say Joe Clark's opening, and alongside him would be Nick Maddinson. Yep. He opened every game last year. He played before he got injured, and he's been opening in the practice games. So it feels pretty likely he's the guy.
Yeah, okay. And he's pretty
cheap coming in pretty raw.
Yeah, he's 2 or 3 games back from an ACL injury. Very raw. He did go okay in one game. I think he made about 60. And he can offer a bit of spin as well in a side who don't have many all-rounders. So I actually think he's a bit of a smoky. I think he's about 87K, his price. Might be someone who could turn out to be a pretty good pick.
Yeah, I think I see him versus Fraser McGurk, and if you've got space in your cap, and assuming Fraser McGurk gets a decent spot in all of this, of course, then you might actually go with, Nick Maddinson instead, particularly if he is that sixth bowler. He might bowl a couple of overs on Marvel Stadium, which is a pretty spin-friendly deck. So I agree. I think he's someone to watch. The Myth, what do you think?
Yeah, he's going to be an option, but they've got 2 class spinners now, which I'm not sure they've had the last time that he was bowling. So I'm not sure how many overs you can expect from him. Their bowling lineup is stacked. The only person you could really see him stealing an over to would maybe be the Chief. And Yeah, I guess it just depends. If it's a spinning deck, you could lose an over or two to Maddinson. Is that enough to justify the extra 25k to Fraser McGurk coming off an ACL, which we've seen in the footy can have a pretty big impact on the performance first year back? Don't know what the thing is in cricket for that. Maybe one of you guys has got a bit more knowledge than me there, but he's one to consider.
Yeah, he'll be this Renegades lineup very relevant early on, and it'll be something very worth closely monitoring. So Michael Nisa, he's just pulled out of the Prime Minister's 11, but interestingly, not completely ruled out for the Brisbane Heat in the first round. Do we have any more info or any idea on what that could mean, and do we plan as though he's going to play?
Again, it's the first game of the round, so it's something where we'll have a bit of time to look into it and be able to pre-plan, and then if he's in, we can adjust. If he's out, then we can adjust as well. But for me, the way I'm looking at it is if Nisa was playing 2 games, then I would be considering him as an option for my team. So if we can feel like he's going to play 2 games with the potential of 3, then that's definitely something that I'm going to be looking at.
Yeah, I don't know about you, but I seem to think that if he's named in the first game, pretty hard not to pick him or put some sort of vice or captain on him just because of who he is and the role he's in.
Well, the other thing there is that he's going to play 2 games before the Scorchers play their first game. So if you do put a VC on him, then you've got a pretty good chance to have a decent look and see whether any looping is going to be required or whether it's worthwhile. You might even get news that he's played the first 2 and he's not going to play the 3rd game. So then you can just go, okay, well, I'll just stick with a Scorcher captain or something like that. So we've got to be flexible is the main point there. You've got to be able to react to teams late, make sure that if someone pops up that you weren't expecting, that you can adjust quickly.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Any other points? Any other thoughts?
I think just quickly, we know that we'll get the news 30 minutes before, 40 minutes before us when we're actually going to know. But we can prep that. You can prep 2 sides. I've already gone through, like making sure you've got a Nisa side ready to go. So as soon as that team list comes out, you're not scrambling as much, and you've got your changes you're going to make. If it's a current out to a Nisa, for example, if that's just a straight swap, if you've got that cash left over, or if you need to use a downgrade somewhere, making sure you've had a look at it beforehand, so that when those team news come out and you're not at risk, you can do the change nice and quick. You're not tinkering up until the last minute. I've seen a couple of times we've had the SuperCoach site struggles right before that last game. So you want to minimize the chance of that causing any issues.
Yeah, I forgot about the lag on that. That could be a killer, absolute killer. Moving on to the next point here. David Payne. Listeners will remember that he played for the Scorchers at the back part of last year. He's joined the Strikers. He's come in at around 140k. Myth, what do you reckon? You eyeing him off for round 2?
Yeah, I think with the Strikers have just got so many bowlers now. And they've got Thornton, Agar, Payne, Nenty, Boyce, Basley. Overton will probably possibly bowl an over or 2 as well. I think I was eyeing off Thornton beforehand, but I think there's a possibility him or Agar could rotate. Payne seems he's cheaper. He's a left arm, so offers something different. If I was stacking a striker, an expensive striker to start, he's where I'd go for, and that's probably who I'm targeting for that first round 2 trade in beside Matt Short.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. If I was picking one striker based on price, quality, and role, Payne seems to be the one, purely because Matt Short's just so expensive and there's so many bowling options at the strikers this season. It could be worth a stash on your bench if that's sort of your strategy. If you're looking to not only just live in round 1, but sort of look towards round 2, then you might go and stash David Payne because he's not all that hard to just sit on your bench round 1. Ben, what are your thoughts on Payne?
Yeah, he's a good player, very good player. I'm a Perth guy, so I saw him a lot last season. He was very effective. He did come in and out of the side, and looking at the strikers lineup, like Myth just said, they've got a fair few bowling options. I do worry he might go in and out of the side again this season, which makes it a bit of a risk if you're stashing him for round 2 double and he doesn't play both. But, they've got Agar, they've got Thornton, like Myth said, so they've got similar types. He does offer that left arm variety, which is probably the factor which puts him ahead of the rest. But yeah, good cricketer. The other factor is James Bazley is going to miss round 1 with a hamstring injury, but will play round 2. That's after the first test. There's a fair break between the first games and the second round, so he should get up for that, which probably changes their lineup a fair bit. He'll come into the middle order. Maybe it shuffles Overton around, and it just changes their bowling lineup as well. So I do like Payne as a pick, but I probably want to just monitor that he's actually a lock to play all those games.
Yeah, fair enough. There is a bit of, as you say, there's a bit of chopping and changing going on round 2, and the strikers lineup will be quite interesting because you've got sort of these all-rounders between 5 and 6, and then Harry Nielsen, who's a lower order batter. So it's interesting to see how they'll fit them all in. Are they going to put a bit of faith in Harry Nielsen with the bat? Are they going to try and hide him away? There's a lot of different directions they could go with him. So that'll be interesting to monitor. Not a very SuperCoach relevant one across the span of the season, but Steve Smith, he's signed with the Sixers. He's 267k, very pricey. If he plays at all outside of the first game, Kane, do you think you'll pay up for him?
No. Not on my radar at all. Even if he was coming back and was playing both games, the double to start with, it's just too much money for a bat only in a time where we've got a shortened season. We can't afford for a Steve Smith at 260k to go and have 2 single-figure bats and drop a stack of cash right from the get-go. I feel like that's just causing a bit of trouble, and that's if he plays twice. So
yeah, I agree. Yeah,
I don't think he's meant to. I think he's only supposed to play the first game, and even if he comes in later on in the season, I don't feel like our cash is going to be as good as it has been in the past due to that shorter season. So I think it's going to be hard for people to actually get him. So it might be a nice point of difference in the final round or whenever it's going to be, but that's a long way away from now. So I'm at this moment, I expect that I won't own him this year.
Yeah, I think I'm in a similar boat. Anyone else? Do we think that Steve Smith on your radar even at all? I'm seeing Ben signaling no.
Don't go near him. Just don't even think he's in the game. It'd be a terrible decision.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'll move on. Speaking of people to not consider in the game at all, Liam Dawson, he's signed for the Stars, playing the first 3 games, and that's it. Sure, he's cheap at 105. Is he? Yeah, 105,000, but he's got to be basically irrelevant with the bye round 2.
Well, he's also only going to play one of the 2 games in their round 3 double. So he's not even going to play the full double in their second double round. So yeah, you're only going to be picking him for that 1 week. Then you probably got to sell him for round 2, which seems a bit of a waste. You could probably have used that trade on someone else, in my eyes.
Yeah. Sorry.
I mean, at the same time, 105k, likely to bowl 4, bat 7, going to play both games on the double. We know that's going to happen. I don't think, and because of all the reasons you said, his ownership's going to be quite low. You wanted a sneaky pot and your side was set up without too many heat players, for example, so you didn't have to worry about moving them on quickly. Could be one to look at. I think for all the reasons you said, not for me, but he's a pod in the roles there.
Also comes down to how many stars you're going to have in your team as well, because going into round 2, we don't want to be stuck with 3 stars and then have a Whiteman who's in your team as well that gets dropped for round 2. Then you've got 4 NPRs going into that round. You're starting to scrape the barrel a little bit. You're restricting your ability to earn money.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, on Dawson, of course, if you really were to go a bit rogue and pick him, you could bench loop him in, and you probably would. Although he seems to be, I reckon he's someone that probably scores 80 in 2 games combined. Just seems pretty safe score accumulator. But nah, I don't think he's got that much relevance. But someone who will play an identical role to him, Imad Wazim, he will replace Liam Dawson after the 3 games. He comes in at 125,000. Now, he didn't really light it up the last time he was down under. Do we think that changes on the MCG? And if so, are you interested in him at all?
I'll jump in. I'm not sure you can even consider him because he's not available till round 3, and he's only available for half the double. So you just got to wait and see how he goes. Like you said, he wasn't great when he was at the Renegades a few years back. He's got a pretty good record in his homeland, Pakistan, but it's obviously very different playing cricket in Pakistan as opposed to Australia. The price is pretty nice, but I say the price is nice because he's averaged about, I think, 90 in SuperCoach in the Pakistan League. So that's pretty attractive. But like you said, his BBL record last time wasn't great. I think he's just one you keep an eye on in round 3 and then maybe have a look. I think there's a Stars double round 6, something like that.
5.
Later on in the season. 5. So,
a single in round 4, then another double in 5.
Yeah, so you see how he goes round 3 and then maybe, if he does well, grab him before that double.
Yeah, I mean, you'd monitor him, but I don't know if he's in my immediate plans after round 3, round 4 sort of thing. But hey, he could be a handy number on the double. Any other thoughts on Wazim?
No,
All right. Now this one's I'm going to throw straight to you, Ben. Ollie Davies. Now we saw he went off in the Sheffield Shield playing for New South Wales with a finger injury. I heard something saying that it was a hairline fracture. Is that true? And if so, I'm assuming he's out for the Thunder side early on.
That is accurate, yes. I haven't got official word on the time frame, but I'm told it's pretty minor. So I'm not sure we're putting a line through him for round 1 just yet. I'm not sure we're really thinking too deeply about Thunder players for round 1 anyway. But I think it's only a short-termer. So they've got a round 4 double off the top of my head. He could be back by the time that rolls around. So just keep an eye on him. I know the Thunder have got a few signings still to make as well. So even if he does miss, there might be someone who comes in and does a similar role. So just one to keep an eye on, I think.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't completely relevant in the first place, but I guess super coaches might be interested in seeing where Daniel Sams bats. He's one of the very few single game players you'd even look at round 1. I've had him in and out, but never really to crash hot on him to start the season. I'll want him eventually, but if he's batting 5 round 1, he might score better than some of these borderline cheapies playing doubles, like a Fraser McGurk, Jack Wood, those sorts of lines. But yeah, if he's fine for round 1, then well, yeah, not much to look into there. Now, this one's not much as news as well. I'll just say two words. Glenn Maxwell, again, scored another quick fire 100. He's been on fire the last 6 or 7 weeks. So I've just got a general question. Why is his ownership not at 100%?
It's a very good question, and let's assume that it will continue to rise over this week. And that
you hope so.
Yeah, you would think that anyone's that listen to any podcast anywhere, whenever it gets to the Maxwell conversation, it's literally, do we have to talk about Maxwell? No, we don't. Moving on, just pick him and go.
Yeah, pretty much. And I think that's what we'll do here. Now, Kane Richardson, he injured his glute in the 3rd T20. Do we have updates on him? There was some talks that he would play in the 5th T20, but he never actually panned out. Do we think that he'll be fine for round 1, or is there a bit of doubt?
Yeah, I'll jump in. I think he's going to be good to go. I think it might have just been selection in the end, which is why he didn't play the last T20. I was told it was very minor. So, there's still, 4 5 days until the Renegades' first game, so he should have time to do what he needs to do to get ready after a flight from India. Just back on the previous point about Maxwell, I think it's quite important to talk about him because you're talking about Nessa as a VC. I think Maxwell's the guy you should be putting the VC on. So if you do go Nessa and he doesn't play all 3 games, you're ruling out Maxwell. So I think you really do need to consider that with the risk of Nessa or someone else in the heat not playing all 3. So personally, he'll be my VC without a doubt, just because of his high ceiling and the lack of risk in a VC. But then again, maybe one of the heat guys pops and you miss out. So that's the thing to weigh up.
Yeah, that's a pretty fair point there. I hadn't actually. It sounds weird, but I hadn't thought all that much about Maxi as a VC. But he plays really early. He ticks all the boxes for a VC. I guess the only thing is that, let's say in comparison to a Colin Munro or Michael Nisa or a vice captain like Tom Curran, for example, they finish, they play 2 games really early, whereas the Stars, their double is stretched quite wide, as in first game and last game of this round. So the only thing that deterred me from a Maxi captain is that you'll see 2 games from a fair few of these guys. You'll only see 1 from Maxi. Now, if he goes big, it doesn't matter, of course. But I know there's just something to ponder there. But I don't mind the shout at all of a Maxi captain with the way he's been vice captain with the way he's been playing. What's the next news I've got here? Hayden Kerr. Now, Ben, you said that he was out for the first 2 games. I suppose the first question is, obviously this was written a few days ago, so could be outdated. Is there any more update on that? And who does this impact in the Sixers lineup?
Yeah, he's likely to miss the first 2. I think it would be a risk to play him. And given there's the opportunity to rest players with that long break at the first test, I think that's what they'll do. They'll give him the chance just to rest up. It probably best suits Jack Edwards, who's 62K, was someone who everyone was really keen on at the start when SuperCoach opened. He was in really good form, and it's kind of dropped away a fair bit. He had a heel issue as well. He returned at club level on the weekend for Manly. He actually didn't bowl, which is a bit of a worry. But I feel like he's someone they're looking at for the all-rounder role, which Hayden Kerr has filled for quite some time. So I feel like he's the one who comes into the side for Kerr. But yeah, like I said, he didn't bowl on the weekend. Maybe they're picking him as a batsman. I don't know. But he's probably the benefactor.
Yeah, okay. And I assume it would probably impact Curran because, if they, let's say, hypothetically, they pick the extra bowler, which I would find weird, but who knows what they'll do. If they pick like a Jackson Bird to replace Hayden Kerr with, that pushes him down to 6 all of a sudden. Does that, if we see him lined up at 6, does he tempt you? Did he tempt any of you with a vice captain on him?
Probably not for me. I think I agree with Ben in terms of if I was going away from a heat, I'd be looking at Maxi. I think he's got that ceiling. I think Tom Curran as well. He's been carrying injury for a little bit of a while, so wouldn't have had too much under his belt from my understanding. I'm not even sure I'm sure Ben's got a bit more information on him. I'm not even sure about where to go with Curran at the moment.
Yeah, I can feel you. And he's in the country and he's good to go. The Sixers play the Thunder in a practice game on Tuesday, so hopefully I can find a scorecard and we'll see if he bowls and how he goes. That'll help us all decide, I think.
Yep. So yeah, okay. We've covered Hayden Kerr. Now for the Sixers as well, Rehan Ahmed's out of BBL 13. He's pulled out due to commitments for England, I think. And he's been replaced by Israel Haq Naveed. Now he's come in at 108,000 and he had a pretty decent season last year. What do we think on him? Is he someone that's flying under the radar a bit? Do you reckon if you're pod hunting, he could be someone to look at? What are our thoughts on Naveed?
For me, that one comes down to the fact that the Sixers draw is not great. So I'm mostly just looking at, I would say that there's only two guys that I would consider for my team from the Sixers, and that's Curran and Philippi, and that's purely based on price. I don't really have too many others that are on my radar for my initial side.
Yeah, fair. Sorry, you go, Ben.
No, I was just going to say on Naveed, my mail is he isn't even in the country yet, so I don't think he's going to be playing on Friday. So you could probably put a line through him if he misses that game. And the Sixers have a few issues with their spinners. Obviously, Rehan's pulled out. Todd Murphy's with the PM's 11. He's kind of carrying a shoulder issue as well. Steve O'Keefe's got a finger problem. I'm told he's in the mix to play on Friday. And then Joel Davies is the other spinner who might actually get jettisoned into the team like he got jettisoned to India as the fill-in player for the T20 series. So Joel Davies could be a bit of a smoky come round one.
It's wild to think about that. Let's say 6 weeks ago, we didn't even know who he was playing for, and now all of a sudden he could walk in and be the main spinner for the Sixers. Hey, I don't know if you go him just because they've got so many people returning, but it'd be good to see him lock down a spot for the Sixers, make the Sydney Smash a bit more interesting.
I feel like this is always the issue with Sixers spinners is they just rotate them because Steve O'Keefe's he's just so injury prone. He can't play consistent games, so they just chop and change, and you just can't have players like that in SuperCoach.
No, that's a pretty good shout. Now there's a few depth signings that came through. Fergus O'Neill joined the Renegades. Mitch Perry joined the Sixers. Neither of them look like anywhere near their first 11s. But Steve Eskenazi, he joins the Scorchers, obviously played for them late last season. I think he's come in at a reasonable price as well in the early 120s. What are your thoughts on him, Kando?
I think I owned him for a few games last year. I think I got a couple of decent scores out of him, but I think there were a lot of failures early on in his stint. Look, he's got opportunity. I assume he's gonna lock down that opening spot for the first few weeks at least. Obviously, we've got Crawley returning for round 2, but I assume that Eskenazi will hold his spot. Look, he's playing in a good side. He's got a good opportunity. If he was probably a little bit cheaper, I'd probably consider him. But I think at the moment I've got other options.
Yeah, fair enough. Myth, what are your thoughts on Eskenazi?
Yeah, similar to Kando. I just think there are other options. He's going to be a bat only. He's still reasonably priced. I'd be looking elsewhere. Even the Scorchers as well. Like we talk about the Sixers not having a great schedule. Scorchers double, single, double bye. I'm not sure how many expensive guys we're going to want to carry over that double bye period. Especially with a few of us having Connolly and Whiteman sitting there as well. Yeah, it's not for me.
Yeah, fair enough. I think he'll be very lowly owned, but yeah, not sure how consistent he'll be. He's been playing club cricket in Perth. I know he played there last year, but is he doing that again this year, Ben, in the lead up to Big Bash?
Eskenazi, no, he plays in England. He's in the T10 league right now, actually, in Abu Dhabi. I'm told he's flying in the next couple of days, so he'll be here for round 1. But no, he used to play for Claremont Nillans locally in Perth. He grew up here, hence the connection to the Scorchers. South Africa born, so a bit of an interesting mix. But no, he's over in Abu Dhabi at the moment.
Yeah, okay. All right. Well, let's get into the Australian Test squad. So it got announced early on. There was some few interesting names. Obviously, Lance Morris was named. What does that mean for his availability, Ben?
That means he will miss the Scorchers double in round 1, which is a bit of a blow because he looked like a bit of an option given his price. Both of the Scorchers round 1 games are over in Melbourne or Victoria. One's in Geelong, I should say. And obviously he'll be in the Test camp, which is in Perth, the other side of the country. So he won't be getting across for those. That's created a bit of a hole in the Scorchers side, actually. They're a bit decimated, and Matt Kelly's probably the obvious replacement, but he's still battling injury. I don't think he'll get up for game one. The Scorchers have got one more spot on their roster, their 18-man roster, which they'll confirm this week. That could be another bowler. They've got a couple of guys playing for WA who probably come in and do that. So, it creates a hole which might be worth monitoring, because I feel like there'll be a cheapie who fills it.
Yeah, okay. Well, we'll of course you'll have your ear pretty close to the ground on that one, and we will be reading. So, we'll get into the PodMasters consensus team. Now, quite a lot of us have put up what we sent through our teams to DrKando, and he's been kind enough to combine them all together. And I believe I've got the side in front of me. Let me just get it up here. I thought it was pretty interesting personally, not too far from my own. Kando, what did you think when you were putting together this side? What did you notice?
Well, obviously, one thing I will note immediately is that this was pre-De Kock pulling out. So De Kock is still in that side. But look, I had already done a consensus side with the hub. We've had a bit of a play around with that. I've had to kind of start again with a lot of the news that's dropped in the last 24 hours. So awaiting for those polls to sort themselves out again so I can start that process again. But look, I think most of the picks there are pretty common amongst most people. One that I'm a little bit surprised at just how high the ownership is McDermott. I know that he's a pretty cheap price. I know that he's had pretty good games in the past, but the Hurricanes draw is not great. He's a bat only. As much as he's available in wicketkeeper, he only bats. He doesn't keep. I feel like he could just go out and get a pretty low score right from the get-go and actually lose cash from his 88K and leave people kind of lost as to what to do with him because he doesn't have any doubles for 6 weeks. So, yeah, I understand that he's pretty cheap and could earn some money, but, yeah, I think that the no doubles for such a long period. And, you know, it's a situation where if he goes big in game one, his price isn't going to skyrocket from game one. So you can jump on later on. If you want to use a boost in round 3 because he's had a big score in round 2 in preparation for his later double and you can ride it till then, great. But yeah, I'm not interested in starting with him.
Yeah, what are other people's thoughts on McDermott just on that? We starting McDermott, benching, not looking at all? What's the go?
Yeah, I'm going to disagree with Kando a little bit here. I think I could understand it. I could understand it a little bit more when pre-Eskenazi news. When we looked like we're going to have a 62K Whiteman at the top of the order, which looks he looks like he's gone after as soon as Crawley's back. I can't see a spot from him 1 to 6. They're pretty stacked. Their batting stocks are fit, unlike their bowlers at the moment. And McDermott, I think the big thing for me is the form. He's been in good form in the Marsh Cup. He's just come off a half century, I think it was, against India overnight. He's 88K. He was 230K starting last season. I think without a cheaper playing wicketkeeper for that bench spot, I think he's a bit of a no-brainer to put in there unless you want to run that Nuff and Whiteman. If you're pairing him with someone like a Joe Clark, where you can just planning on leaving Whiteman just rot there and using him as a loop around 4 to 5. If you want a playing player,
I will say that I do have Whiteman in my backup wicketkeeper and haven't kind of adjusted from that Eskenazi signing yet. So look, I might end up with him because there's not many other options, but I'm just saying that I don't think that his ownership should be as high as it is.
No, I think that's pretty fair. I think if you're running Clark, it makes sense to just chuck Whiteman there and just back Clark over the 5 games. I think if you're running Harper, now it gets quite tricky because you want to have someone there unless you're moving Billings around. That locks you into a few more keepers. How many of them do you want? I think it gets quite interesting, but having him sitting there on the bench as a loop option, Hurricanes have a few early games through the first opening rounds. Makes it easy to loop him off your bench if need to for one of those single game spots, which will open up after round 1.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty good calls there. Ben, what are you thinking? Where do you sit on McDermott? Yeah, starting him, or you're not looking at him?
Well, I think the assessment was pretty solid from both of them. You really are weighing up one or the other, Whiteman or McDermott. So then you've got to figure out what you're after in either of them. And it feels like you're probably not going to be fielding them. So you're looking for cash generation. Kando's point about McDermott not going up in much value. I mean, his break-even's 28. This guy can have a massive score. So I feel like he's the guy you're going to want because his ceiling is so high that he can soar in price, whereas Whiteman, his SuperCoach record is dreadful. I know he's in good form in the Marsh Cup, but he's averaging like 10 and 15 in the last few seasons. He is in good form, though. I'll give him that. And also, the other thing with Whiteman is he's got buys in rounds 4 and 5. So if you're looking for a cash generator, he's going to stall. The best argument I've heard for Whiteman is that he becomes your loop from wicketkeeper for rounds 4 and 5. I just don't think that's a good strategy in a 9-round league. So, I mean, I can understand both arguments, but I just think there's more to go for McDermott. Like Myth said, his form's really, really good. He's the second leading run scorer in the Marsh Cup, behind Whiteman, admittedly. But it's good form. He's got a high ceiling. I appreciate the draw is 6 or 7 singles in a row, but he's playing every round, so he's got the scope to make cash every round, as opposed to Whiteman.
Yeah, that's pretty fair. I've had him, but that's just because of previous record and price. I'm not going to go out there and expect him to set the world on fire, but it'd be nice if he could pick up 40, 50K. I don't think that's too much to ask for. But yeah, I mean, it feels like it's an interesting pick because I'm using him as an alternative to Fraser McGurk right now. So I get to see Fraser McGurk play twice before McDermott even plays. And so not many people are doing bench loop round 1, but I usually do. And I'm not going to let the short season deter me from that. Maybe I'm a bit too stubborn, but I don't know. There's a few different ways you can use McDermott. I think that adds to why he could be picked by a fair few. But sorry, we're completely off track. Back to the PodMasters team. Myth, what did you think of the team, and how similar is it to your own?
I have to say, like, the more I was expecting maybe the updated one from all the polls, but from the last time I checked it, I had a few similarities, a few differences. DeCock, when it was there, was one I was going against, so that was probably the biggest one and the more scary one for me. I was at that time wasn't willing to pay 180K for a batsman, even though he does keep as well. But yeah, look, a lot of things. I think from memory was Swepson there.
Swepson wasn't there, but
No.
they did have.
No, he was in the hub one.
Yeah. Oh, the hub one, yeah. I'll read out the PodMasters one actually for the listeners. So we have Billings and Ben McDermott at keeper, Quinton de Kock, Tom Curran, Colin Munro, Marcus Stoinis, and Josh Philippi as the starting batters, with Darcy Short and Sam Whiteman on the bench. In the bowlers, we have Jai Richardson, who was also captained, Will Sutherland, Adam Zampa, Glenn Maxwell, Paul Walter, with Tanveer Sangha and Cooper Connolly. We did also have 14,000 spare, so that could just about be Quinton de Kock in for hypothetically Michael Nisa, but it could be anyone at that. You got a lot of flexibility in that spot. I thought personally it was pretty similar. I didn't have Stoinis. I'm surprised behind the ownership of Stoinis. I see him as 6th or 7th in the pecking order for overs, more likely 7th. I see him behind Webster in the overs. I see him batting anywhere from 4 to 6. And I understand he's cheap, but we've picked him 3 or 4 seasons in a row thinking he'll bounce back and reach that 95 average he had in 2018. But it hasn't happened. Is he just finished as a SuperCoach option? Is that too far of me to say? What are your thoughts, guys?
I'm in agreement with you. He's not for me. I don't think he's been in any of my drafts, to be honest. He's disappointed for a couple of years now. We know the potential's there, and that X factor's there. But if you put a different name on him, and you looked at his form over the past 18 months, I don't think you're picking him. So I think that's where I'm standing, and could hurt me round one, but I'll take that risk.
Kendo, your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm in a similar boat. I don't have Stoinis in my side. I don't see him batting in the top 4. I see him in that number 5 spot. He might float a little bit if it gets to last 5 overs. No matter how many wickets are down, you'll come in sort of situation. But I don't see him bowling enough overs to really make him relevant, which is when he was bowling, that's when he was the SuperCoach gun. Since he lost bowling and dropped down the order, he hasn't performed at that same sort of level. So, yeah, I think we can kind of see what the team looks like. And if we see that he might be the 6th bowler, then it makes it a little more interesting. But at the moment, not on my side.
Ben, your thoughts?
I haven't really got strong thoughts either way on Stoinis. He's currently not in my team, but he could sneak in there. He's pretty cheap. I definitely would like him in round 3 if he's going well. I don't think it'll cost an arm and a leg to do that. But yeah, I'm worried about the role. If he's not bowling and he's batting 5, it's a no for me. So yeah, if they've picked 5 or 6 bowlers plus Stoinis and he's named at 4 or 5, I'm probably turning it down. So it really is a matter of he's playing first, so we assess the team. The other factor in all this is that Bo Webster will miss the first game, but he'll play the second game, and he's obviously the all-round option as well. So you may not get – Stoinis might bowl in the first game, but he might miss out in the second. So there's enough reasons for me to not be keen, but if he's opening the batting suddenly, I'm going to be pretty interested.
Yeah, different story.
Yeah,
not that I think he will. I don't think he's going to open, by the way.
Well, we'll move on from the consensus team. Now, Ben, through HoneyBall, you've also released your annual e-magazine. A bunch of experts in there and lots of good content, including scores from SuperCoach scores from T20 leagues around the globe. Can you tell us a bit more about that and where we can buy it?
Yep, yeah, it's available from honeyball.com.au. And I'll tell you what, we're doing a Tuesday special, cheap Tuesday tomorrow, 20% off. So get on for 24 hours only. Like you said, it's got a whole bunch of experts who've chipped in with their opinions on locks and value picks and who players to fade, like Stoinis, he's in there, and thrown in their opinions on reasons why. We've got an extended Q&A with Andrew Langley, who's the back-to-back champion of SuperCoach BBL. And I'm going to tell you, his insights are next level. So that's I wanted to trim down the interview because it was quite long, but it was all gold. So I left it all in. There's heaps in there. There's the availability calendar. There's a player profile from a SuperCoach perspective of every single player in the game. So you'll get a bit of an insight as to who they are. There's team rundowns. Like you said, there's the T20 form guide. So every single performance in let's say the Caribbean Premier League or IPL, that's all in there in terms of SuperCoach scores. So you can figure out if Paul Walter's worth getting or what role Jamie Overton's going to play for Adelaide, all that stuff. So heaps in there, honeyball.com.au. Get into it. Yeah. 20% off tomorrow. Get into it.
Absolute gold for SuperCoach. I can't tell you how useful it has been the last few years. You've got everything there, simple and concise format, and it's very easy to read and look over. We'll move to our individual teams and strategy. We might start out with you, Myth. Tell us what your strategy is with your starting team and who's in it.
So constantly tinkering with mine at the moment, but I think the main thing that's key for me early is this round 1 is huge. 7 games, no other round's got more than 5, 4 to 5 for the rest of them. With so many teams on the double, I think a fast start's important. So I think that's made the decision for me to not carry any expensive strikers on the bench, trying to maximize that cash on field. At the moment, sitting at, I believe, Harper with McDermott. That Harper spot, that keeper spot's the one that's giving me the most trouble, to be honest. To put it bluntly, I don't really like any of the options. So I'm trying to work out the one that's going to give me, I guess, the most flexibility, and that's where I've sort of landed there. Got pretty standard, a lot of the Maxwell, Sutherland, Munro, Walter. I've got Connolly sitting there on field, which is probably the risk at the moment, with Fraser McGurk and Darcy Short. Like a lot of us are sitting on that back bench. Take a look at Fraser McGurk and then adjust based off that first score. Jai Richardson, Tom Rogers, Tom Curran, Aaron Hardy, and Spencer Johnson there at the moment, or that'll be Matt Kuhneman based on that final team list, I think. Tanvir Sanger on the bench, and then I've just got Chowdhury sitting there at the moment. If it's Kuhneman, I can get him up to Wood. If it's Johnson, then I have to keep that as a bench loop. So I think my strategy early, based on that bowling line, is just to try and get a few of those 180k guys in, get Jai in when he's a pod, and just try and start fast. And then I think I'll be sacrificing the striker double a little bit, not probably running as many, because I don't know what Basley's going to do to that team. I don't know who's going to move in, who's out, so I can't go too many of them. But that's where I'm sitting at the moment. I know that'll change between now and first ball on Thursday night.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, obviously, what we say now is going to be greatly different to what we say or what we have Thursday night. Ben, run us through your side pretty quickly. What's your strategy and who have you got in there?
Well, my side's still got Rashid Khan in it, so I haven't really updated it. So I'm not really the best one to provide any advice. I tend to wait till pretty late until, like Myth just said, it all changes so much. I will say, like, I will use the bench spots to generate cash. I think that's really important. So there's guys like Tanvir Sanger I've got in my side. I think Cooper Connolly may get a good role, so I've got him in my side. I appreciate he's on a round one double. And I think stashing away some strikers is smart, so I've got Darcy Short in the side. I'm umming and ahhing on Manenti as well, so there's a few little things there which I think will be worth consideration. I've currently got, excluding my comment on Rashid Khan, which was a bit of a joke, I've currently got 4 Heat players in my side. I think that's probably pushing it. I reckon 3 is probably the amount. So I've got Billings, Munro, Walter, and Kuhneman at the moment, but I think Kuhneman might slip out. So there's a few little notes there. I do think I already said Maxi's my VC, and I'll probably go Tom Curran as a captain. So it probably shows I'm not that keen on the Heat guys if I'm not going to VC any of them.
Yeah, fair enough. Kando, run us through your side.
I do agree with Ben that going with just the 4 Heat is probably where you want to sit. I have actually jumped up to 5 because I just added de Kock to Nisa, so I am sitting with too many at present. But I've got Billings and Whiteman, Nisa, Hardy, Sutherland, Munro, Maxwell starting bats, Short and McGurk on the bench, Jai Richardson, Tom Curran, Zampa, Walter, Connolly on field, and then Manenti and Wood on the bench. So Wood's obviously just to sit there and wait and see what happens with him. I haven't got a whole lot of cash in the bank, but I'll have to do a little bit of shifting around if he doesn't get a spot. And look, even if he gets a spot and plays 2 of the 3, then I'm happy with that. I feel like he'll make some money from that anyway.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, I'll quickly run through mine. So I've looked more towards just grabbing as many points as I possibly can early on. I feel like cash gen will come naturally, but also I am conscious that there are some really good value picks. So I've gone with Billings and Whiteman at keeper. I've got Curran, Hardy, Munro, Maxwell, and Ben McDermott as my starting 5 batters. I have Fraser McGurk as my emergency and Chowdhury there as well. So my plan is to do a little loop there. I've also got Jai Richardson, Sean Abbott, Will Sutherland, Spencer Johnson, and Paul Walter, with Tanvir Sanger and Jack Wood on the bench. Jack Wood's my emergency. Barring a massive score, I don't see myself playing Jack Wood this round. But in saying that, there is a world where I move him up to bat, and if another bowler cheapie comes in, I do the bench loop with Jack Wood. Colin Munro's my vice captain, and I've captained Jai Richardson. I just don't think many people will. Some people will captain him, but I don't think it'll be greater than 5% for example. Final point I've got here is what are our bold predictions for round one? Just 2 predictions for SuperCoach. What do we think that'll happen? That seems kind of absurd right now.
I'll go first. I've already kind of gone down this way, so I'll double up on it, and I'll say that McDermott fails round 1 and doesn't make any money, and then Neeser to play at least 2 of the 3 games, and even if it's only 2, he'll go 120 plus.
Yeah, that's pretty good. Of course, you got to double down on the McDermott one. You got to die on the hill. I appreciate that. Ben,
it wasn't a hard
yours?
like I'll never have him, but it wasn't a hard I'll never own the guy. It was more just I didn't think he should have been where he was at. So we'll double down on it. Say that he's going to fail round 1.
Yeah, fair enough. Ben, what are yours?
I didn't see this section in the notes, so I haven't really prepared one. So that's not good. I'll just say that the Scorchers will lose both their games unexpectedly to the Gades and the Stars.
That's big.
Yeah, I'll just say that. They like to start slow.
Fair enough. Myth,
I'm sure they don't like to. But...
Yeah.
I'm going to go a bit of a different one. I think Paul Walter's an interesting one that's coming into round 1. I think he's going to be a complete another boom, or he's going to be a complete another bust. So I'm going to pick he's going to either go below 50 SuperCoach points across the triple or above 180. So I think he's going to be either I think he's going to be an impactful player for this one. He's got the strange role. I just think he's going to either kill it or he's going to be another one of these English imports that really struggles. And I don't know which way it's going to go. And I'll pick Stoinis to dud it up as well. Say under 60 points.
Yeah, okay.
Yep, like that one too.
Well, I'm going to go and throw a grenade in there. I'm going to say Glenn Maxwell scores under 80. Absolutely absurd. I'm going to go super absurd. No logic or thought process behind it. I'm just going as stupid as I can get. I reckon that if Spencer Johnson plays, he starts on fire, cleans him up early, and then Perth, well, they've got a pretty good pace attack. Jai Richardson might roll through him. There you go. I reckon that's how he scores under 80. Of course, can't do too well with the ball either, but hey, we'll go really bold. We'll leave it there, though. Can I just say thank you to you guys, Kando, Ben, Myth, for coming on. And catch us next time when we will probably review round 1 and preview round 2. Thanks for hopping on, lads.
Thanks, mate. Pleasure.
Thank you. Good luck round 1, guys.
Have a good night. See you.
Yeah.